What is happening, my good people? Greetings. How are you? How's it going? How's everybody doing out there? What is the latest and greatest? Hope everybody's doing well, feeling fantastic, and excellent spirits on another Wednesday live stream, the last one for the month of April. I'd like to throw a curveball for you guys every now and again so I could keep you on your toes. But as I pull up the graphic right here, April 29th, 2026, as we get through another sports week and a jam-packed one at that. Lots to get into this over the course of the next 2 hours with some news on the back end as to forthcoming podcasts and live streams, and also a new video that's going to come out in regards to some of the work that I've been doing behind the scenes, which will be on Friday. So definitely take note. That'll come later on. Obviously, all the sports that we can shake a stick at here as we talk about anything and everything that's happening in all the sports, even Kentucky Derby. Can you imagine? Jay Reel's talking about horses. Now, I'm going to get into specifics, not necessarily about the race, but just horse racing overall. And I only talk about it 3 times a year, which would be the Derby, the Preakness 2 weeks after that, and then 3 weeks after that with the Belmont Stakes. And especially if we have a horse that has won the first 2 legs of the Triple Crown, going for the third, which obviously would be history. That's the only reason why I bring it up. But I'm going to even get into that, as well as your comments. So as you already know, for my regulars, they know to share their thoughts as I'll post. I see some comments coming in now. I'm sure a bunch of hellos to my regulars, which we'll get to in a moment. So please, whatever it is that's on your mind, you want to agree, disagree, what it is I have to say, post it in the chat room. I'll have it up there on screen, as well as for those watching on a replay, leave a comment because I'll follow up afterwards to make sure that whatever it is that you posted, watching it well after that this has been recorded and in the bank, that I'll still follow up and inform you on whatever it is that, whether your opinion, if you agree, disagree, want to debate, that's what this is all about. This is Sports Talk, by the way. So please feel free to do that as well. And for those who are jumping on board for the first time, as I see you got more than a dozen people here, hey, hang out a little bit. If you're having lunch, if you're in the East Coast, or if you happen to be on the West Coast and you're having breakfast, or even if you're overseas somewhere and you're kicking back, doesn't matter. I appreciate you stopping by, carving out precious time out of your day to listen to what it is I have to say about what goes on in sports. So before I get to it, let's get to the comments. Of course, my guy Fuqua Johnson, a.k.a. Rhoda Penmark, a.k.a. Tatsuya Mai, a.k.a. Everyday Mets, Kai Bowie Bull, going down the line, Jonathan Sean Cup, all of the AKAs. He's the one guy that week in and week out has a different name. He's actually stuck with Fuqua for quite some time, but who knows? I'm sure he's got some curveballs in his pitching repertoire that'll probably throw at me over the next week or so. So we got Fuqua to start us off. And yes, it is day 3. I'm going to get to the Mets in a little bit, so hold that thought there, Fuqua. Hang on to your hat. I will definitely unpack that. And, of course, my guy, Bio, greetings to you. Fishing Angel, good to see you. Greetings, greetings, greetings. Of course, Val B out west. Greetings as well. And, yes, Val, I know, 7-0. Because the Phillies fired their manager, you got to wonder whether or not Don Mattingly had not necessarily his managing style, but the shake up there. And I'm going to get to the Phillies and what's going on there that ties in with Carlos Mendoza. Trust me, a lot to discuss there. J-Rod, my guy, of course, greetings to you. And everybody's just sharing their greetings here in the room. We've been fishing a lot. Nice. With a name like Fishing Angel, you know she's out there with the weather getting nicer. Finally, the month of May is 2 days away. Can you imagine? Oh, geez, the time is just flying by. I tell you. I used to go to the horse track. It's fun. Yeah, I'm not a gambling man, as you guys and gals know, but I got to talk about it. And, you know, I will discuss later on. Good to hear you doing good, Val. Yes, everybody. And EA, I don't know how to pronounce that, but welcome. I appreciate it. And, which is, I'm sure, right in your backyard there, Bio. Yes, we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about this too, J-Rod, absolutely, which I'm sure right now your stomach is in knots considering what your team has done and what we've witnessed with them so far. Talking about the Oilers and Celtics, yes. Thank you, Val. I appreciate your support as always. And I see a lot of people populating the room here. Share your thoughts, people. Don't be shy. This is what we do. These are my regulars that they hear every week. And hopefully you'll become a part of this as well, week in, week out, every Wednesday, high noon at 12 p.m. Eastern. That may change in the month of May. Got to stay tuned, but we're not moving from the 12 o'clock slot for now, but that may be a bit of a tweak as we get into the month of May and beyond. And what else we got here? Bio. My dad would take us to Santa Anita. Oh, check that out. Nice. Wow, that's really nice. And Santa Anita, obviously, have a lot of races there. That goes, please, way back. And that's good to know that you share that experience with us, Bio. I appreciate that. And to think, that's going back. Well, I don't want to age you, so let me just zip it right there. So with that being said, let's see what else we got. The Novice, greetings. Absolutely. To me, this is the best sports month by far. I've said it a million times. I know people will probably argue that. October, NFL, college football, baseball playoffs. And listen, to me, it's a close second, but right now, it doesn't get any better than this. I know, and also the Marlins, too, on top of that. But goes to show you that even though you could have a performance like Shohei did last night, and if the bats aren't there to support him, that's where he's going to get the L. So I'm not going to put that all on Ohtani. Please, he pitched great, and unfortunately, he came away as the losing pitcher. Not really have all accepted defeat. They look so bad. Yeah, I know. We're going to talk about that. Never been to a horse race. I actually went, I've been to the Meadowlands racetrack many moons ago. I believe it was 1985. I think it was the summer 85 I went. And I'll never forget, I actually had gotten, should I even share this? I was a fare evader for the subway back in 1985. Paid my penance, of course, since then. But I'll never forget because I got a summons going to a Met game, I might add, and then going to the racetrack. I don't know where he is, if he's still around. Matt Hickey, a former high school friend of mine. We went to Meadowlands racetrack, and I believe it was Meadowlands, or was it Monmouth? I think it was one of the two. It may have been Monmouth now that I think about it. And I was going to place a wager on this one particular horse, and I know, J Reel's betting? Listen, I was 16. So obviously I've learned my lesson between now and then. And it was a situation where there was this one horse I wanted to bet to come in first. And his odds were okay. They weren't like 2-1. If I put $20, I would have won 40. I think they were 5-1. And I was thinking about putting $10 on this particular horse. And there was another horse, I think that was, if I'm not mistaken, I think they were 3-1. And he was second. And I was thinking about putting $10 on this horse. And my summons was $50. And I didn't put the wager down because, you know me, scared money never wins. So what happens? That horse won. So I would have won $50, which would have paid off that summons, but I never did it. And then away we go. So that's all you need to know about my race or my horse racing experience when it comes to that. But I tell you. Oh, hang on here. I almost skipped Fishing Angel. I don't want to do that. Pistons need a wake-up call. Well, if they don't wake up tonight, they're going to have an early trip to Cancun. So you only hope that that's not going to be the case. Phillies did better. San Francisco looking when he wins the season, and he's starting today. Yeah, and if the Giants are going to be good, obviously he's going to have to win some games. Yeah, I'll talk about that, Val. We have a horse track not too far from us. Oh, all right, cool. That'd be good. Make a day at the track. Why not? I think if the Pistons play if they want, the Nationals, they will win. Well, they got to do it tonight because if they don't win tonight, that is it for them. SoFi Stadium's built on. That's right. It is on the whole Hollywood racetrack. You're right. Yes, I am aware of that. Interesting. So look at that. SoFi on the former Hollywood racetrack. And I was just thinking about the Hollywood Bowl, too, which obviously I know is separate. I used to go to OTB, Imagine the Only Legal Betting. Yes, remember that. Yeah, face plant. I remember that, Fuqua. Absolutely. And I agree with Bio. I think that's going to happen. It's weird here they race in the winter. Yeah, a little bit too cold to be out in the track, if you ask me. But, hey, I guess I got to make their money somehow, right? Even if it is going to be 20 degrees out there. All right, let me get right to it, people. Obviously a lot. And I'm going to start here. NBA first round to have 4 game 6s at least. And who knows what's going to happen tonight? You may have 6. Well, 1 for sure because we know about Cleveland and Toronto. And that's going to go 6 games. That's tied at 2. But yeah, the Lakers playing the Rockets. And the Lakers can win tonight, and I think they will. Kevin Durant's going to be out again. No shock. I know he hurt his ankle in game 2, and I'm not going to even think that the Rockets, maybe they'll hang around a little bit. but with Austin Reeves, who could be on the mend, or he is on the mend and could be in the lineup tonight, and if you're going to throw an AR-15 in the mix, then forget about it. I don't think the Rockets have a snowball's chance in hell, so I can see them advancing. And if you're the Lakers, you got to look at it this way too. You have to save as much energy, especially when it comes to LeBron James. We know about Luka. At this point, he's not going to play for about a month. And you got to wonder about his legs coming back. Obviously, he has the hamstring issue and him going to Spain and getting whatever it was, stem cell or platelet-rich plasma. I don't know if that's the case. I'm just guessing. You don't want to mess around. Win this game tonight. You'll have a couple of days until the weekend where you don't want to push this to a game 6 Friday. And even if they won on Friday 120-70, the point of the matter is you still have to get on a plane, go to Houston, have to go through a walkthrough, shoot around, play the game, and then what, 48 hours later go to OKC to get lambasted? So if the Lakers are going to have any shot to win that next series, and listen, I think they're going to win this series. There's no way they're going to blow a 3-0 series lead. Win tonight. That's it, cut and dry. And I think it would be a more compelling series if they win tonight, because then Luka could prepare for quite possibly, I would think, maybe a Saturday or a Sunday 3:30 ABC game. And if he does play, I don't know that to be for sure. But with that, and with Reeves being healthy and LeBron, you're going to save some gas in the tank, especially if you don't have to go to Houston. If by any chance the Rockets pull off an upset tonight, and then who knows if KD could actually play in the game 6, where that could easily shift to where I could see the Lakers playing in a game 7, which would actually be mind-boggling to think up 3-0. But all in all, I think the Lakers will take care of the Rockets tonight, so that's neither here nor there. And then you also have Denver, Minnesota, which that's going to be a game 6. And I'm going to get to those series and those games in a second, but I want to pivot and go here. Last night. It is aggravating to know that the Celtics, and again, they could lose any of these games. And when we think about their recent history of playing at home, the Celtics, especially in game 5s, they have not been good. They lost to the Bucks in a game 5 3 years ago. That's when Tatum scored 46. That was actually 4 years ago now, because that was the year when he went to the finals, where Tatum scored 46 in game 6 and then they won game 7 at home. That was Grant Williams. He made 1,000,000 threes in that game. They lost game 5 the year after to the Sixers. Down 3-2 going to Philadelphia, where Tatum had an awful shooting game, but he made 3 3-pointers in the final, I think it was like 4 minutes of the game. They won game 6, went back to Boston, and then he put a 51 in the game 7. So game 5s, they've just been brutal for whatever the reason. They even lost a game 5 to the Heat in 2023. If you remember that series, when they were even at 2, and then the Heat won game number 5 before having to go to Miami, and that was the putback by Derek White right at the buzzer to salvage that game. As a matter of fact, I take that back. The Celtics won that game 5. I'm thinking of another Heat Celtics. I think it was the year before. No, that was a game 6. So now I got my game 5s all mixed up. But the Celtics, here in this recent vintage, they had not delivered game 5s in their building. And last night was another example of that. So for them to have a good first half, didn't really shoot the ball particularly well, but they had a 13-point lead in the third quarter. And then late third quarter, that's when Embiid started to turn it on. And he played great last night. I can't debate that. But he was sucking wind toward the end of that game. And I'm going to get to that point in a moment. But for the Celtics to shoot 3 for 20 in the final quarter, actually end the game 0 for 14, terrible from 3. And we know the Celtic recipe. It's bomb from 3, bomb from 3, bomb from 3. Last night they bombed, but they're going to live and die by the three-point shot. They're not going to alter their game. They're going to have that stubborn approach that even if you're driving to the basket, and there could be nobody, there could be me standing in front of the basket, they're going to kick it out if they see somebody in their peripheral vision to see if they have a wide open 3. So they're going to go from a high percentage shot to a lower percentage shot, even if the guy is wide open for 10 zip codes, which to me doesn't make any sense. But with that being said, the Celtics last night in that fourth quarter, they were abominable. And listen, the Sixers, they feasted off of that anemic Celtics shooting. The game looked like a blowout. You probably thought, if you didn't watch, you're probably thinking, oh, geez, they probably set the tempo early on and led from in front. Not in the least. Celtics had a fourth quarter lead. Now it was 1 point. But they went into the fourth up 86-85, I believe. And what happened? 11 points in the fourth quarter. I mean, what? So I was just beside myself to witness how that all just fell apart like a house of cards. And then with Tyrese Maxey with a double-double, Embiid had 33, and now the Sixers have life as they go back to Philadelphia for a Game 6 tomorrow night. Now, here's what I'm going to think about if I'm a Celtic fan, if I'm a little bit worried. I'm not for this reason. 2 reasons. One, you've already won in that building, winning games 3 and 4. Also, to combine the fact that, yes, maybe the Sixers are due to win a game at home, finally. You can also throw that into the equation. But the Celtics aren't going to fear going into that building thinking like, oh, we don't have a shot in hell. Number 2, you would think they're going to shoot better. Now, I don't know if their last game, when they beat the Sixers by 32 points, and Peyton Pritchard had 32 and Tatum had 30, and they shot 24 three-pointers, which were a Celtic team playoff record. Where could that Celtic team show up? It's kind of the game, which Celtic team is going to end up showing up there for Game 6. But here's the other thing, and I think even the bigger thing that I think bodes well for the Celtics tomorrow night. Joel Embiid, who had not played for 2.5 weeks, came back Game 4, did put up, I believe, what he had, 28 points. I forgot what he had off the top of my head. And played, I think, 32 minutes. Last night, he played almost 40 minutes. Big-time game. Can't knock it. I know he had to leave for a part of the game with a knee issue. But now he's got to go back out there tomorrow night again. And we all know he's lumbering, bumbling, rumbling, bumbling, stumbling. And he even had to address it in the postgame about him being lazy or out of shape again. And we know Embiid is not going to be a guy that is chiseled out of clay looking like a Greek god. But considering his age, mileage, injury history, and listen, we still know that 50% of him is better than 100% of a lot of guys out in the league. But I would have to think that if somehow, some way, the Sixers or really the Celtics, if they get into a bit of a track meet, I would like to see some transition. I would like to see him run up and down the court. I don't want to just see half court chucking threes, which I understand that's what the Celtics are going to do. I get it. But at the same time, can we run a little bit, having him beat out there so he could suck wind by midway through the second quarter? Because then by the time he gets to the third and fourth quarter, he's going to be gassed. And I'm not going to expect the Celtics to go 18 for 47 from 3. I would hope so. But that performance last night was putrid, especially in the fourth quarter. So I'm going to chalk it up to the Celtics going ice cold. And hopefully they could get that one extra game to win so they could look forward to the weekend and in all likelihood play the Knicks, which I'll talk about next. But that was just a putrid fourth quarter, and it was tough to watch. And knowing that they're going to close them out, had a couple extra days before we would think them facing the Knicks at some point, maybe even as early as Saturday night, but I don't know if that will happen now. It could, or even Sunday, which is probably more likely. Cheers, H2O. So for the Celtics, listen, you can only hope they're going to regroup, shoot better, play better, and hopefully come out victorious there tomorrow night. Now, as far as the Knicks, they played their 2 best games of the playoffs. I understand we're only in the opening round of the series. But Brunson with 39 last night to go along with Karl-Anthony Towns' triple-double there Saturday against the Hawks. And now the Hawks look overmatched. The Hawks had a chance to really put the death knell. Or maybe that's a little strong because even down 3-1, the Knicks certainly would have had a shot to at least maybe even push it to a 7th game. I understand they had to win games 5 and 6, but last night was just an obliteration. Now, I get it. The Hawks try to hang in there, but they were no threat to the Knicks at any point in the game once you got pretty much past halfway through the second quarter. And I was back and forth on the game. Obviously, I was watching Celtics Sixers, but right now you got to think that the Knicks are going to go to Atlanta, mean business, button up, and that's it. Put a hurting. And you would think with their momentum, that's what's going to happen because Atlanta, they're a young team. They're even a fun team. I mean, who wants to root against Atlanta? I mean, nobody does. They haven't been anywhere near part of the basketball relevant landscape in forever. And it's funny to say that because they were actually in a conference final 5 years ago, if you could believe it. When they faced the Bucks that year, that was when the Bucks went to the championship round and beat the Suns. So I'm not here to pick on the Hawks, but let's face it, they're just not a good team yet. They need some more reinforcements. They need some, I understand CJ McCollum is there and you have his veteran presence, but they need more because you're just not going to be able to do it with the likes of the Jalen Johnsons of the world and even the Cale Alexander-Walker, who I understand is bounced around, and he's a good player, most improved player this year, but he's still not a guy that you're going to look at, oh, he's going to give you 22 to 25 points a game here in the postseason. And in the regular season, I believe he averaged 20 a game, where career-wise, I think he's averaged anywhere between 9 to 11 points a game. So the Hawks, not to say they're going to go out meekly, I'm sure they're going to have one last go-round to see whether or not that they could at least extend the series to a 7th game, which is kind of what I'm hoping for. But the Knicks right now look like they're ready to put the Hawks out the pasture, and that's what we got there with that series. Now, as far as the other series of note, I want to talk about Denver. They're alive. They're chugging. I get it. No Anthony Edwards, which is huge. Dante DiVincenzo to a lesser degree. But I think the Nuggets are going to push this series to a 7th game. I really believe it. I don't think that even with the struggles that the Nuggets have had, and Jaden McDaniels with the comments, they're bad defenders, so on and so forth. And I know Aaron Gordon is nicked up. And listen, the Nuggets aren't whole, but knowing that the biggest piece to that Timberwolves roster is out, and he's going to be out for some time, I think the Nuggets now have a path to get to a 7th game and win. And I understand they got to go to the Twin Cities to steal a game in Minnesota, but let's face it, you'd rather want, if you're an NBA fan or even a good sports fan, you want the Nuggets to win the series. And I understand you may not like Nikola Jokic, or you can't stand Jamal Murray, or I'm sick of the Nuggets, or whatever that may be, and that's fine. But do you really want to see a Minnesota-San Antonio 2nd round without Anthony Edwards? I don't. Why even bother? That's a 5-game series at best. Quite possibly a sweep. Yeah, Rudy Gobert, I understand he's probably going to be on more likely than Victor Wembanyama, but it's not about Wembanyama. He's not a one-man gang. We know who the Spurs and what they're able to do, and last night they polished off the Blazers last night. But, yeah, I want to see Denver. And listen, I don't have any Nugget pom-poms. You know who I root for. But if I want to see a competitive 2nd-round series, and to think you may get Celtic Knicks, and I want to get Nuggets and Spurs. And I understand that the Nuggets, they're going to be on fumes going into the next series where the Spurs are rested, but the Nuggets have a little bit of that DNA that they had from 3 years ago, knowing what it takes to win games. Obviously winning a championship, playing on the road, winning those tough games. Remember, they took OKC to 7 games in the 2nd round last year, and they were actually up early in that game, 7 in the first quarter. Now, I think they were up like 21-10 before they were up by 5, and then at that point, OKC just took off and won the game. So I don't want to see the Timberwolves anywhere near that next series, and I think the Nuggets are going to win tomorrow night. I understand they haven't won there, but they've won there in the past, and I think they'll win there tomorrow and then have a Game 7 there on, I guess it would be Saturday night. As far as the Cleveland-Toronto, listen, I think it's going to be a home series throughout. I think Cleveland's going to end up winning the whole series when it's all said and done. Can they win in 6? I think they can. Do I think Toronto's going to win this series? I don't think so. Obviously, as I've said to you time after time after time, not that they're a big underdog against Cleveland. Remember, this is a 4-5 matchup. But my philosophy, the most important games in the series, especially if you're the road team, are the odd number games. And you're going to have to win one of them. So if they win tonight, Game 6 in their building, had the home court, and hopefully they could win that series against the Cavaliers. But I don't think that's going to happen. I see the Cavs winning out here in 7, so it's going to go into the weekend, which would bode well for the NBA because I think overall, when we look at these first-round series, and this is going back many years, they're forgettable. Nobody remembers the first-round series like, oh, there was this series or that. Even that Buck Heat series that I talked about 3 years ago where Giannis was out for 2.5 games and the Bucks lost in 5. I get it. We could go back to 94, Seattle, Denver, where Denver was down 0-2. They won the next 3 games. And I wish the NBA would go back to a best of 5. It would be that much more competitive. It would be that much more even suspenseful. Because these 7-game first-round series, they're a joke. It's usually 1, 2, 3, and 5, or 1, 2, 3, and 4 that advance. Very rare you're going to get a 7-seed advance. Very rare you're going to get an 8-seed advance. I understand, and I'm going to get to them next, which would be a perfect segue when it comes to the Magic and the Pistons. But these first-round series, they're interminable, and to me, it's a waste of time. Now, we watch. We love the sport. I'm going to get into it, but it's not a thing where we're not going to look for a big-time upset early on. You're not going to get Denver beating Seattle. You're not going to get the Knicks, and I understand they're not a prototypical 8 seed that one year in 99 when they beat the Heat when the Heat were a 1 seed. And yes, I get it. The 07 Golden State Warriors beat the Dallas Mavericks 1-8. But the Warriors had a lot of bravado. They had a lot of swag. And Dallas, coming off of that championship loss the year before against Miami, and even though Dirk was the MVP that year, but it was a situation where they literally dunked all over the Mavs and how Avery Johnson got schooled in that series by Don Nelson. So for this first round, I think in decades, up to this point, and there have been a lot of blowouts. I get it. But you got some juice. You got some gas in the tank. Because you have series, as I saw in the graphic there before, you got 4 game 6s. And quite possibly you could get multiple game 7s. You want to have game 7s. That's what it's all about, as we hear time after time. The 2 best words in sports, game 7. And that's what I want to see as a fan. I want to see Denver get to a game 7. Of course, I don't want to see the Celtics get to a game 7. But we can look at Toronto and Cleveland get to a game 7. We're hoping that Denver gets to a game 7. And I know one team that's looking forward to and hoping to get to a game 7. Well, they got to get to a game 6 first. And that is the Detroit Pistons, because here they are gasping for air. Game 5 in their building tonight. And it is do or die. The Pistons have been a major disappointment. And considering they were a 60-win team, they came flying out of the gate to start the year. They've led from in front. Nobody in the East has threatened them to be even close to the 1 seed. I know the Celtics got to, I believe, within 2 at one point. But still, you didn't think that the Pistons were going to squander that. And, of course, I'll get to the comments for those who are on for the first time here on this live stream. But when you have a team that has been outstanding all year, led by Cade Cunningham, who I don't think he's not a finalist for the MVP, but he's in the top 5 or 6 in the discussion for the best player in the sport this year. And when you have nobody to back him up, Jalen Duren has been literally Houdini, a disappearing act. Tobias Harris, I get it, he's a veteran, he's been around, but he is not a guy that you can really lean on as far as being reliable. He's got good size, he's got ability, but he floats in and out of these games. And he's going to have to really step up tonight in order for them to get to Orlando to extend this series to a game 6. And Jalen Duren especially, because he got dunked on, that Jamal Cain dunk. I know everybody's going to see that from now to the end of the postseason. That's going to be on the highlight package when you get to the end of the finals and they're going to do a recap of the playoffs. I mean, that is going to be right up there. And for Duren, listen, as I said on Monday on the podcast, could somebody knock on his door or wake him up from this 4-game slumber and say, hey, the playoffs have begun. So let's see whether or not they're going to turn it up. I'll say this. I think they'll win tonight, but I don't think they're going to win this series. Because you don't like what you see. I could see it was the thing where Orlando, and they played well, you got to give it up, but it's not as if Orlando's run them out of the gym. Or it's not as if the Jalen Durens of the world and the Tobias Harris have had big games to go along with Cade Cunningham. It's just that Orlando was that much better. You haven't had that. So how I look at it is that tonight, would I be shocked if Orlando won? I'd have to say I would be, only because Detroit's got to show some pride as a 1 seed. They can't go out like this. But I could see that series going to Orlando and the Magic advancing from there. But then I will say, if there will happen to be a game 7, and people could say, oh, the pressure's going to be on Orlando. Pressure going to be on Detroit because it's in their building. They're going to have to deliver. They're going to have to stand tall. And do I think they could do it? I think they can. Will they? Let's get to that point first, and then we'll discuss. So obviously, stay tuned to the channel right here on YouTube at JReels, where I'll chronicle the rest of the series. And that is a hint. That's a little Easter egg, people, for the back end of this podcast. All right? So just keep that in mind as I keep you here in suspense to talk about that in the next hour of the podcast. So, and yeah, I'm not going to talk about Oklahoma City. I mean, Phoenix, really, that's just a waste of time. Or even Portland, I get it. Those are the two series that have advanced, as we know. And I pretty much covered everybody. I believe that's it. Yes, we talked about Knicks. We talked about Celtics. Obviously, Cleveland, Toronto, Denver, Minnesota, Lakers. Obviously, we touched on that. And that's it. Yeah, and the other two series are done. Wait a second. Oh, no, we just talked Magic and Pistons. So that's what I got there with the NBA. Now, well, before I pivot, because I want to talk NHL, but I do have to talk about this because there was an article this morning on ESPN. Let me just pull that up real quick. Maybe I'll, I don't know if I'll do that. Let's see. Oh, look at that. I just checked this headline. Justin Simmons retiring as a Denver Bronco, okay? And for Simmons, been with the team 9 years, safety, etc. But the one thing I want to get into is Dave McMenamin, ESPN writer. And let me pull up the graphic here because if you don't know, now you're going to know. This is the most tiring, and I'll get to your comments after this. I promise, people. I just wanted to throw this in just to kind of encapsulate the NBA before I get to your comments and pivot to the other sports. So Dave McMenamin, ESPN, was interviewing LeBron James. And, of course, this came up. Now, I didn't read the article. This was just some snippets that I saw on what LeBron had to say about it. And his summation of it was, my game is different than his game. He does things that are better than me. I do things that are better than he. And which is legit. Nobody's going to debate that. But then later on, when he mentions, and although it's legitimate, and I get it, but he goes, when making these comparisons, it's easy that some guys are going to look at me and they're going to want to crap on him to be nice and tame, just in case there are any teens or kids that are watching. And, you know, people enjoy crapping on me. So when you hear that, that's when you get the side of LeBron where you don't like. Because, yeah, there may be some truth in that. But at the same time, it's like, all right, now you're making it about you because people are going to pile on you because you're not considered the GOAT. You're not the greatest of all time. That Jordan is always going to be superior over you, especially if you have a certain demographic like yours truly who've watched Jordan play, not just on YouTube, not just on clips or highlight videos, none of that. And obviously watching both of these guys' careers unfold and just to be blessed and grateful to have witnessed that. No pun intended when you talk about witness his days in Cleveland. But the thing is that this is one thing you don't like about LeBron because he's putting the crown on his head. King James, I understand, chosen one, going back to his days in high school, Sports Illustrated cover, has been just about impeccable throughout his career, other than the decision, of course, and maybe a couple other things that I could pick on after the 2011 finals, talking about, oh, well, people want to complain about me. Well, you got to go back to your day jobs and whatever while I'm living my life. All right, come on. You don't have to needle or get at the average guy out here. Well, LeBron is obviously one of the most famous people on the planet. But my thing is that LeBron, here's Michael Jordan. It's not like you're being compared to somebody who is beneath you or somebody who is your equal. Now, granted, LeBron doesn't have to take a backseat to anybody, and I understand that's where the ego kicks in, but he knows he wears his number for a reason. Nobody's saying that Karl Malone is better than LeBron James. Nobody's saying that. Throw another guy, you want Oscar Robertson, or you want to say Jerry West, and we all know this is the beauty of sports and debating it. And listen, that's like if somebody told me, okay, if somebody said to me 15 years from now, And hopefully we're all still together here. And they say, well, Jay Reels, he was the second best sports podcaster out there. Bill Simmons was number one. I'm just throwing Bill Simmons out there, just giving him a shout. Not that he needs it, but. And then I'm going to come out and say, well, Bill Simmons does things that are better than me, and I do things that are better than him. But you know what? Everybody wants to dump on me, and nobody wants to dump on Bill Simmons. And meanwhile, I'm actually 6 months older than he is. Obviously, he has a lot bigger and longer resume than I do. I get it. But the point of the matter is that that's like me saying, oh, well, I should be number one or I should be the best. Yeah, would it be nice to be number one? Of course. But if I know that I've laid my foundation, that I've done my due diligence, work, etc., in crafting a career doing this, doing what I love, and you guys know that. And then for me to then all of a sudden be on my high horse to think, well, you know what? I shouldn't be number two. I should be number one. I'm better than Simmons. Well, privately I may think that, but come on, I'm number two all time. Now listen, where do I sign up for that? You want to put me in the top 10? Where do I sign up for that too? So that's where LeBron takes it a little bit overboard. Because it's not like he's being compared to somebody that isn't, as I just mentioned. He's being compared to Michael Jordan, the assassin, the guy that Kobe Bryant, where everybody, and of course, Bio's a Kobe guy, so he knows, where everybody looks at Kobe Bryant, especially the millennials, even guys like myself, they're going to look at it as the guy because of what he stood for on a basketball court, that it was by any means necessary to eviscerate your opponent, never back down, never be afraid, the Mamba mentality. Jordan is the godfather of that. And LeBron is going to have, I don't want to say beef, but he's going to have an issue with that? That's all I got to say on that case. And right, I'm not going to say, based on what I said, you're going to know who I will lean towards too. But that doesn't mean LeBron is any worse or is not an all-time great or even an immortal. LeBron is an immortal. If you're number two all-time, in which I believe he is, you're immortal. That's it. You're going to be remembered. Who knows where this planet will be in 1,000 years? Or let's say, how about in 100 years? LeBron is going to be talked about forever. Carmelo's not going to be talked about forever. Yeah, he's going to be an all-time great. You understand that? And there's a million all-time greats, but there are very few immortals. And there's no debate that he is an immortal player. So with that being said, let's move on. Let's get to the comments. And I see a bunch of them here. What do we got? NBA, Fishing Angel. Yeah, no, we got a lot going. Oh, here we go. Congratulations on going on that sports show. Yeah. Yes, that was a lot of fun. I haven't gotten the word yet. This was just this past Thursday. Trust me. When it's up, I'll send links. Check it out. Like I said, the fan versus hater segment, I was only in the one segment. And it's interesting because even after the fact, in hindsight, I said I should have gone up to debate the second question, or the third question overall. But you'll see me. I'm in the front of the room or whatever. And I was in the opening segment. And then the second one is the better one because it was the last fan standing. It was the trivia, which I ended up in third place. So, and that was fun. That was a great time. And interestingly enough, the kid that I was debating against, 15 years old, Chase Coburn. I'm sure if you see him, you'd be like, oh, yeah, I've seen this kid. He's on top of it. Come next month, I'm going to have him on a live stream, and we're going to debate the one question that I didn't step to him in reference to, so we'll go at it. It has to do with Lamar Jackson. So there's a little hint as we move it along. Asar Thompson is a horrible shooter. Yeah, no, he is not. He's a defender. His brother Ahmed is a better player, but Asar Thompson, yeah, he's got to do something with his offensive game. Absolutely. Al Fishman. Oh, some bragging rights in the house. All right. We took our son fishing. He caught us first. Oh, nice. Wow. Great. Congratulations to your son catching 5. That's great. And look at Val on top of it as always. So he beat me to it with Justin Simmons. All right. First day I caught 13 fish, including my first. All right. Wow, 13. Shh. Second day, 11 other wildlife. So that's 24. Oh, here we go. Here's the count. 6 different. Wow. So you guys did well. Now, did you guys come in first place? I don't like the Magic playing dirty. Yeah, that's the Magic. They are a physical team. I saw that last year in the first round against the Celtics. Yeah, they play a little bit on the edge. I'll admit, without question. And it's interesting because the Piston team, everybody, including yours truly, called them Bad Boys 2.0. And you haven't seen that a lot with them this year. They've had their moments. I know that Charlotte game with Duran and Musa Diabate on the Hornets and Isaiah Stewart running off the bench. And yeah, we've seen, but they haven't had that edge this year. And I would like to see them have that edge against them because maybe that's one of the reasons why the Magic have had this 3-1 series lead. I get it, you got to score points. It's not about who's going to fight or who's going to push who around, but to have some attitude is certainly going to go a long way. And I would think tonight they throw their weight around to see whether or not that they could get out of Detroit with a win and go back to Orlando. NBA's not playing with making you pay to watch playoffs. No, I know it's a joke. Yeah, no, it's terrible. I hate it. Amazon Prime, NBA, Peacock, or NBA, NBC, ESPN. Yeah, it's all over the place. Yeah, and I'll go through the schedule too in a little bit to see where these games are going to be at. I hate that guy. Well, he's the anti-David Stern because Stern was a guy that was his last name, Stern. He was a pit bull, and Silver's not. Oh, Gronkowski, yeah, no surprise there. Patriot Hall of Famer. Oh, sunny, which is great. Yeah, here in New York, it's going to be, I think, in the low 60s, if it's not already. Sun, rain's coming, though. Thank you, Val. Appreciate that, as always. Yes, happy Wednesday. Uh-oh. Who, LeBron is the cancer? I agree, he needs a quiet injury. Oh, no, Fuqua, don't say that. People are going to think that you're, listen, obviously if you don't like LeBron, you don't like LeBron. And listen, I got nothing personal against LeBron. I mean, how could you not? He's going to be a guy that people are going to say, good riddance, thank God, whatever. And then 5 years from now, they're going to be crying for LeBron or a player of that magnitude to be back. Because the same thing happened to Michael Jordan. People were sick of Jordan. They were tired of him. Oh, he wins all the time. Oh, I hate the Bulls. I hate Dennis Rodman, Scottie Pippen. Still sick of number 23, whatever. And then when he was gone, everybody clamored for Jordan. Same will happen to LeBron. I can promise you that. As for Commissioner NBA, somebody's against NBA. Axel, welcome, my man. How are you? Adam Silver, yeah, he's just buddy with the players. That's my thing with Silver. I could take it or leave it with him. And listen, all these commissioners are going to go for the biggest money. Roger Goodell's done it. Rob Manfred is now doing it. And let's see if they get the CBA done, because once they get the CBA done, you know they're salivating. And that's another thing, too, which I had not discussed. Now, they signed – I'm going off topic here, but I promise this will be 30 seconds. Major League Baseball with NBC and Peacock, and I think someone else too, not Amazon, they signed a 3-year media rights deal, obviously because they don't know what's going to happen with the CBA. But once they collectively bargain and hopefully they get – I'm sure they're going to try to get at least 8 years because they're going to want to go to these networks and try to get the most money that they can to stream these baseball games because they look at the NBA getting $76 billion for 11 years. The NFL, we already know they make more money higher than – please, it goes all the way to Artemis 2 near the moon. And the same for – well, NHL to a lesser degree, but still. And baseball, you know they want to get in on that. So something to think about when you move it along. LeBron needs to get the GOAT conversation out of his head because he'll never be the GOAT. You're right, and that's the thing. Younger fans, like my son is a huge – forget about it. He grew up on LeBron James. And I've discussed with him and debated, and he's going to tell me the longevity and the this and the that and whatever. But, hey, he didn't have Jordan's DNA, and to me, that goes a long way. And I'm sure if Jordan played 23 years, he'd probably have the most points ever, and he didn't. So, and remember, Jordan went to college for 3 years before getting drafted. LeBron came right out of high school. Logan Webb. Well, they're in Philly. Who's pitching for the Phillies, though? Let me look that up for you there, Val. Luzardo, I know, pitched last night. Gave up, 2 hits in 7 innings? Christopher Sanchez, who has not been good, but that's tough. Sanchez, just for you, Val, and I can't stand the Phillies, I'm going to say Logan Webb. How about that? See, I'm going with my heart instead of my head in that regard. Jordan never lost NBA final, lost many. Conversation over Jordan GOAT will never change. Oh, no, it won't change in my eyes. And it's not even for the final stuff. Because think about this, and I get it that with Jordan leaving for baseball those 2 years, he could have gone probably 8 straight years when they sandwiched the 2 3-peats. And I get it, the East was weak when you're playing Danny Granger, Paul George early on with Indiana. I understand the Celtic teams too, but the aging Pierce, Garnett, and Ray Allen. The Atlanta Hawks one year when they were a 1 seed in 2015. The Raptors, they call LeBronto, when he beat the Raptors all the time. DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. So, and that's the funny thing too, because people want to talk about the Jordan-LeBron debate. Oh, this is the reason why LeBron's a GOAT. He had to beat Golden State. Well, who the hell did he have to beat in the East to get there? He beat nobody. And that's the thing I laugh at when they come out and say, oh, well, Jordan, come on, he beat. All right, Drexler's a Hall of Famer, but come on, the Blazers weren't a all-time great team. The Suns had Barkley, but come on, who else did they have on that team? Dan Marley, Kevin Johnson. Utah, well, they had 2 Hall of Famers who obviously came up small in those spots. The Sonics won 64 games in 1 year with Gary Payton and Sean Kemp, but of course people are going to laugh at the Sonics because that was the only time they got to a final during that decade. But they want to laugh that Jordan had and they played an aging Laker team in 91. Well, it was a combination because that age, you had Sam Perkins, you had Eldon Campbell. But still, it was one of those things where they could get at me for saying, oh, who did Jordan play? But who did LeBron play to get to the final? No one. So I don't want to hear it. And LeBron, they go to 8 straight finals, which is impressive. I mean, geez. I was telling my husband I should make a video how apologize. Oh, well, that goes on. That's been going on for eons, unfortunately. That's not just recently. That's been going on forever. And here's a case in point for you, Fishing Angel. And you can comment below, and I'll go back to sports, of course. The water situation in Flint, Michigan, has that been straightened out? And how long has that gone back? A decade and a half? Longer? What's up with that? We're supposed to be the richest country in the world, and they can't even fix a water problem in Flint, Michigan? Stop. Need I say more? Yeah, I never saw that. I saw the first one, though. I did see that with my son at the time, but Space Jam 2, yeah, I did not see that. That's a good one, though, Fugo. Good one. See Lisa. Yeah, I can see that, right? Imagine. Gas is $4.30. Yeah, you could thank, listen, I don't even need to go there. We all know who's responsible for that. So, LeBron's GOAT chase is over. He had a chance, didn't make the cut. SGA is next up, had a chance to be the GOAT. I got news for you. You know who's going to be the next GOAT? And I think it's rather easy. He has to stay healthy, and that is a huge if. We all know availability is your best ability. The next GOAT is going to be Victor Wembanyama because we've never seen a player like him ever. And I understand at almost 7 feet where Kevin Durant has the handle, he could shoot, whatever. Wembanyama does that, and he's almost 5 inches taller than Durant. And he defends. So now he's not going to get 40,000 points, Wembanyama. That's not going to be the case. But when it's all said and done, he's probably going to crack the top 5. Again, underline if. But he's going to be the next GOAT, and he's going to be the next face of the league. Now, I don't care what people say, oh, he's from France. How could a guy from France be the next? Well, why not? A guy could be from Mars. If the guy's great and does it year in, year out, wins MVPs, wins finals and finals MVPs, I don't care if he's from the moon. That guy could be the face of the league. Please think about this. The last 8 MVPs, granted there have been multiple in between, but the last 8 MVPs have all been from players outside of the U.S. Giannis twice, Jokic 3 times, SGA, Embiid, that's 7, and maybe missing one other. I think the last 8 MVPs. Well, we'll say 7 for argument's sake, but I think it's 8. You always should be number one in your own mind. Right, exactly. Yeah, I got to have a little bit of humility. And that's it. All right, if somebody came to me, hey, Jay Reels, you're the GOAT. What I say? Hey, people say that, great. I appreciate it. I would just only hope that my work stands on its own and people could appreciate it. That's it. And you know me, I'm not going to put my chest out and be like, yeah, guys, hey. Now, listen, if one day news comes out that my live streams, my podcast, my whatever's number one, I'll share that. But that doesn't mean, yeah, I'm number one, guys. You know, yeah, look at me. Ha. No, I want to be like, no, that's a credit to you guys. Following me, supporting me, etc. Because the only way I'm number one is because of you guys. That's it. It is a family fishing day. Nice. Oh, look at that. Well, hold on before I get to that next comment there. Jordan couldn't win the 80s. No, that's right. He had to get through the Celtics 86 and obviously those Pistons teams until he finally broke through. We know what happened in 91 where they swept the Pistons and they just walked off into the locker room, which was, man. Could you imagine that happening today? Back then, it was almost like, all right. But today, you know, the world we live in, now it's sports, it's competition. I understand it's going to look very bad if that happened today, but it's fodder for sports talk, which is great. You caught 9 the first day, all right. 9 the next day, but you said you caught, what, like 13 and 9 or whatever? Because I know you had outnumbered them. Fishing Angels showing that she's just that, a fishing angel. LeBron couldn't win it. So what's your point, Bio? Uh-oh. We got some banter between J-Rod and Bio. When I caught my carp, it was a great fight. Oh, I'm sure. I know Roger Goodell gets booed in NFL draft because I agree with some. I'm not a big fan of his. Yeah, I mean, all the commissioners get booed. When Bettman comes out for the Stanley Cup for the Stanley Cup winner, he gets a ton of boos. Yeah, Goodell, I think the reason why he gets a ton of boos is because he's a guy that sweeps a lot of things under the rug. The Ray Rice thing, the Bounty Gate, the concussions, all that. So it's made him look bad. And he's a guy that when he goes to the draft, I think it was in Philadelphia that one year when he got him to the podium, and you know the Philly fans are fickle as all hell, and how Goodell, welcome to the 2017 NFL draft, and all you boo, and he's doing this, WWE, come on, Philly. Like, what? Oh, I can't stand him. Is Rob Manfred good at his job? I think he is. Now, he gets critiqued because he's not like a dying-a-little baseball guy. If you remember, and I'm sure Bio has got something to say about this. When they won the World Series in the pandemic in 2020, and he says, it's just a piece of metal. And all. I mean, come on. If you're the commissioner of the sport, you can't say that. And therefore, a lot of people knocked whether or not he had the baseball savvy, not from a business standpoint. I understand that's the reason why he's there, but, know the history of the game. Enjoy the game. Appreciate the game. And a lot of people think he didn't have that based on that comment, which is fair, but it's a little unfair. But not only that, he's done well to improve it, I think, over the last few years with the pitch clock, with the bigger bases, killing the shift. The shift was just, I couldn't stand it. So they've done some things and a few other rules too. So, yeah, I got to say, in the last few years, he's done a very good job. Kobe's a GOAT. I know, but we can go back and forth on that one. Listen, I think Kobe is, as you all know, I've talked about this many times. Kobe's an all-time, come on, it's a no-brainer, he's an all-time great. I don't put him in my top 10, but that's not an insult. I'm sure there's other people, especially in their 20s, and Bio, you and I, we're roughly the same age. When I get to the debates with these 25 and 30-year-olds, they look at me like I got 10 heads. They look at me like, what? How is Kobe not in your top 5? You nuts, blah, blah, blah. And I start going off names. And no, they're just like, no, Kobe was this. I said, no, sorry. And I've watched Kobe play every big game in his life. And listen, there's no debate how great he was. God rest his soul. But When we're talking GOAT, we're talking greatest of all time. I'm just not going to put him there. And again, it's not an insult. It's not. And I'm sure, Bio, you know that. I mean, at least, as we all like to say here when we banter about this, it's business, never personal. I have no ill will toward Kobe at all. The guy was like the boogeyman every time Celtics played him, especially in those two finals. So, Kobe O'Neal, when he came to the league. How many without O'Neal? Yeah, he had 2, Orlando and Boston, no back-to-back years. No, but Kobe, listen, you can't knock Kobe. Not at all. Was that to me, Fishing Angel? I have kids? Yes, I do. I have one son that I know of. No, I'm kidding. No, just the one. Yeah, Sub Giants had 2 hits yesterday. Yeah, no, that was a rough one. Yeah, it's been treated. Uh-oh, you have one of those comments that gets lost in the shuffle here, which I can't stand. Wait, it says all comments. Hold on. Can't post comments at some destinations, learn more. You see, right now I can't do that. Maybe I got to do that next time. All right, hold on. They threw the people that caused it in prison. Oh, wait, hold on a second. Oh, yeah, it's been treated? All right, this is now going back to Flint. I got you. All right, but how long did it take to get treated? You figure, we got a water issue in Flint. That sucker should have been done. All right, maybe not days. How about weeks? Not years. Or even months. All right, come on. Months is ridiculous. Years? They do the people. Oh, they did? Oh, that's good to know. Yeah, I mean, that's despicable. Yeah, gas, I know. Bigs in the NBA don't last. Case in point. Look at Embiid. And that's why I laugh. People, when they talk about Embiid, like, I was reading something earlier this morning, and I get it. This is all clickbait garbage, which I don't, and I'm not even going to say the guy's name or whatever. But they came out and said, they've woken up the beast. Embiid is going to push this series to a 7th game and could win the series in Boston. And I said, all right, is it far-fetched? I won't even go as far as saying that. But you mean to tell me Embiid, who hadn't played in 2.5 weeks, just like I said earlier, played Sunday night 30-something minutes, played last night almost 40 minutes, and then tomorrow night he's got to go back out there and play another 40 minutes with that big lumbering body of his? Ooh, that's news. Boy, and I picked the Red Sox as an over this year. I'll just leave that right there. Jordan had Robin, greatest defender and rebounder ever. Best three-point shooter at the time, Steve Kerr. European player, Tony Kukoc. Second most open player, Scottie Pippen. Yeah, he did have that. No debate on that, for sure, 100%. And, of course, he did have Phil Jackson. Yeah, which helps. Uh-oh. Has anyone ever mentioned LeBron played against Rodman? In both their prime, Rodman would stand out. Sean, greetings. I would have to say this. Rodman was good to get in people's heads. I don't know. He probably would have gotten into a young LeBron's head prior to him winning his first title. Because remember, he had a bunch of terrible games along the way. Now, he had great games too. That 25-point straight, J-Rod, against Detroit in 07. Game 5. But he also had that terrible series against the Celtics in 2010. They were up 2-1. And no, it was actually 2-2. They were up 2-1, but then Rondo had his game was sick. It was like 29, 17, and 15. And then game 5, he shot 3 for 14 in that game, LeBron, in Cleveland, where the Celtics went going away. And then they lost the game 6 in Boston. That was his last game in Cleveland the first time around. He was terrible in those games. And then the following year, as I mentioned, him losing to Dallas, where if Rodman played against that Rodman, he'd get in his head. But when he started winning and when he was really at the peak of his powers, especially the time after Dallas in Miami, and then obviously in Cleveland, his second go around, Lance Stevenson trying to blow in his ear, like seriously. Yeah, at that point, LeBron knew that he was like He-Man. He had the power. So, but you know what? Rodman would find his way. He'd find advantages. But obviously we'll never know. But hey, listen, It's an interesting thought and debate, that's for sure, Sean. All right, what's time? Oh, it's 1 o'clock. All right, I got to get to some other things. I want to get to your comments, though. Almost at the bottom. LeBron had Wade and Bosch. Couldn't get it done against Dallas. You're right about that. And listen, I get it that there's some finals that they could have lost. And right, when you think about it, they should have lost that final. And I'll never forget watching that final. And the fake Miami Heat fans leaving the building. I think the score was what? Was it 94-89 at the time? Or maybe 92-87, somewhere around there. And yeah, the big thing, why wasn't Tim Duncan in the game to box out? Chris Bosh kicked it out to Ray Allen. Yeah, and they should have lost that series. You're right about that, J-Rod. Yeah, and the Dallas was an adjust. I mean, that was basketball malpractice. You could tell he was tight as a drum. Even Dwayne Wade saying, come on, do your thing. Like, what are you doing? In Dallas, I think it was game 5. Ugh. No, totally agree. Name one big that didn't break down and could play at the same high level for 10 years. All time, the novice? Well, if you want to say, well, maybe not even to 06. I guess you could say Shaq, 96 to 06. But even when he got to Miami, I believe he was second in the MVP in 04, 05. But even on that championship team in 06, Shaq wasn't his dominant self. He went from being the guy, and I understand that was Dwayne Wade's team, but he went from great to very good because Shaq on that Heat team and that championship team, he was very good, but a far cry from his dominant self. Yes, they are. 100%. But no, but that's a good one, though, the novice, because there's a lot of them. Going down the list. Now, I won't go back as far as Wilt, but recent memory, yeah, I'm not counting like Sean Bradley, and I mean, that's a given, or Sam Bowie. We want to go Mutombo. You want to go even Alonzo Mourning. Yeah. I definitely hear what you're saying. What's his favorite about money, and only money? Yeah, and what was it about the money that they didn't do? Probably put it towards getting it fixed in a timely fashion. That'd be my guess. Obviously, I'm well far removed from that situation, but just knowing that it took forever, it's awful. Robin is prime shows LeBron that, but when is it going to be LeBron peak powers 2012 to 2018? Because I don't know if he does. You're going to talk early LeBron or LeBron now? I mean, he's 41 years old, but the water for the city of Flint used to come from Detroit to put money in their pockets. They switched and started getting the water out of Flint. Wow. Yeah, I know about the lead. Yeah. No, it's terrible. Terrible story. There's another big, Anthony Davis. He can't stay healthy either. Go on, Val. Excellent. All right, here we go. Thank you, Fishing Angel. I appreciate that. You know. We got to get ready for the day. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Go sports. Yes, J-Rod. You too, Fishing Angel. You're going to part. Have a great rest of your hump day as well. And, yeah, you're going to have to come back to the end of this. Maybe not watch it live, but watch it recorded because I got some news to talk about at the end. That is very important in reference to the upcoming podcast and live streams. All right, let me go through this pretty quick here. NHL first round. Remember we talked about the NBA having 4 first rounds and having the best first round in decades, which I believe it is for the NBA because you rarely get game 7s. You rarely get – if you do get game 7s, you get 1, maybe 2. Quite possibly you may get more than that, which is what I'm hoping for, as you know. But with the NHL, we could get 3, 4 game 7s. And you're going to have 6 game 6s as it is. You already had the 2 sweeps with the Hurricanes and the Avalanche. But last night was big because you had the Wild go up 3-2, beating Dallas, and now they're on the ropes. But I can see Dallas winning a game 6 on the road. Now, this is a big game for Minnesota because they have not gotten out of the first round in 11 years. When they got to a conference final that year. So for that organization, this is crazy to say for a first round. This is the biggest game in their it's strong, franchise history. But this is the biggest game they had in a long time. Because do you really think that they want to go back to Dallas to play a game 7? And Dallas for whatever the reason, I've said it before, they could lose the first 2 games against Vegas, but go back and win a series. They could be down 1-0 in this series, and they lost 6-1 in game 1. Had a 2-1 series lead. All right, they tied, and now they're down 1. I won't be surprised if they go back to Dallas game 7, and I can actually see them winning in a game 7. But the Wild right now, give them credit. Kirill Kaprizov, Matt Boldy, they played great. And I have to say, I wouldn't be surprised if they do win a game 6 in their building. But I like Dallas. Listen, I picked them to win the Cup, so I got a little, not wager, but preference there. Then you had the Oilers and Bruins survive. The Bruins survived in overtime where David Pastrnak scored a goal to extend their series. And then Edmonton, the 2-time defending Western Conference champs, came out of the gate flying, 3 goals in the first period. They pulled their goalie. They brought in Ville Husso, and they were able to win 4-1, 2 goals by Leon Draisaitl. I actually watched that game because I wanted to see whether or not that they were going to survive that. Once they were up 4-1, I went to bed. But Connor McDavid, I know there's been a lot of reports, game time decisions, he's hurt. Of course, the NHL is like top secret. We don't know the lower body injury from an upper body injury, if it's his leg, if it's his shoulder, if it's this, if it's that. But now they're going to have a pivotal game 6 in Anaheim where at this point, Anaheim, they play well at home. They won the 2 games in their building. Edmonton, listen, they were down 0-3 in a cup final to the Panthers 2 years ago, and they came all the way back and were 1 goal away from completing the unthinkable. I can't count them out just yet, although I could see Anaheim winning game 6, but I'm hoping they push it to a 7th game. And then the other 2 series with Montreal, Tampa, and Utah, as Vegas came back and won in overtime, and that was weird how that unfolded, but that was a gut check for Vegas because they did not want to go down 3-1. And Utah, obviously the first time they've ever hosted playoff hockey in that state. And listen, they were close, but they were unable to come up with the game winner to put themselves in a commanding 3-1 position. Then you have the Penguin comeback, which is big because they were down 0-3 in the series, and now it's 3-2. They're going to play in Philadelphia. I'll go through the schedules. I know I talked about that even with the NBA. But now you have a situation where the Penguins could actually win another game to push this to a 7th game back to Pittsburgh. And remember, the Flyers in 2010, they were down 0-3 to the Bruins. Now, I understand it was 16 years ago. 0-3, and they came all the way back and won that series in 7 games. And mind you, in game 7, where the game was in Boston, they were down 3-0 in the game. So they were down 3-0 in the series. They came all the way back to tie. And in game 7, they were down 3-0. And they still came back and won the game. Now, what does that mean for the Penguins? Nothing. But the Flyers were on that side of history, coming back from an 0-3 deficit. Could they be on the side of history being up 0-3? Or up 3-0? Get my numbers mixed up. So I got that to look forward. And then Montreal Tampa, which has been a phenomenal series, overtime games, etc. And now it shifts to Tampa there. I believe it's tonight. And to me, that's a toss-up. That series, I would think Tampa, but would I be shocked if Montreal won? Absolutely not. And I think for the pure hockey fan, they would want to see the Canadiens win. Remember, no Canadian team has won a Stanley Cup since the Canadiens of 93, 33 years ago. So keep that in mind as we're moving along. But the NHL has been fantastic. When you have all these series that are going to go 6 games minimum, and you got what? All 6 of these series are going to go minimum 6 games. And I would think out of the 6 series that are left, I mean, cut them in half. You would think half are going to go 7 games, no? And if they go, let's say 2/3, 4 game 7s in a first round series, this is what the NBA needs. And I hate the way they seeded the NHL, but you know what? It's worked because you want to have intriguing series. You want to have series of length. And yes, I understand they're not going to put the genie back in the bottle, similar to the NBA, to shorten these series to 5 games. And if you recall, going back to the 80s, there used to be 5-game first-round series. They used to play 4 games in 5 nights. Game 1 Wednesday, Game 2 Thursday, day off. Game 3 Saturday, Game 4 Sunday. Look it up. And then Game 5 on Tuesday. But obviously they're not going to do that. So how I look at it is I think you're going to see several Game 7s in the NHL, and you know I'm here for it. Now, before I get your comments, the next thing I want to say this quick because this has me disgusted. And I'm sure if you saw this come down yesterday late afternoon and you're trying to read this and you're saying, what? And we all know what the bottom line is for this. Now, there were rumors that they were going to do this. We didn't think it was going to be as soon as this, possibly this coming year, but this is an absolute disgrace. I don't care. More doesn't mean better. We all know the old saying, less is more. Not to say, not to say that 64 isn't a lot, but we know 64 has been the standard for many years. And all right, you're going to talk about the playing games, 68. All right, fine. You throw those in there. 76? Why? For what? Of course, we all know. Inventory means more eyeballs on the sets, means more people streaming, means more people are watching, and it is a tournament. It's 2.5, 3 weeks. It's in and out, and it's literally what everybody here, I'll just use America, and maybe throughout the world, in a big giant nutshell. They want their bite-sized samples, or they just want to have the big dose of it, and that's it. Unlike an 82-game season in the NBA or NHL or 162-game season in baseball, everybody knows. Wake me up the Thursday March Madness, and off we go. And now they're going to expand to 76. Why? For what? And that's why I put bubble. What bubble? The teams that are on the bubble are going to get in now. So just look at the Big Ten. Whatever Big Ten teams that are on the bubble, Indiana, they're going in. And, of course, they're not going to kick Indiana out. They're a mainstay. Granted, they haven't done anything in the last God knows how long, since what? 2002 was the last time they were in a championship game when they lost to Maryland. But now they'll be part of everybody's consciousness come tournament time. That Indiana will be there, or any other team that's on the bubble, or any other team that is questionable on whether or not they're going to go in. Oh, wait, we got 8 more spots? All right. Or really, when you think about 12, because now – you forget about the playing game, unless they're going to put 76, it's going to be 72, or whatever. I just and I haven't even put that as a short. I probably should have done that. Maybe I'll extrapolate it from this, but I can't stand it. I can't stand it. Because those teams that are on the bubble, they're going to get waxed anyway. And I understand you may have some exceptions. We talked about, Texas, they were on the bubble, and they actually won their first round game as an 11 seed, but then they lost in the next round. Did they lose to, was it Florida that was? I even forgot. But yeah, I can't stand it. All right, comments. Giants 340. Oh, so that game's at 640. Yeah, it's Philadelphia. For a minute, I thought it was West Coast. When all right there, Val. We're not playing game 5. I know Bone Bruise. Yeah, USC can make the NCAA tournament now on 76. Yeah. No, exactly. No, it's a joke. I can't stand it. All right, let me get to the next thing, which will be baseball. So you had a lot happen here over the last few days, and you see I got a few things there. And I'm also going to squeeze in Carlos Mendoza. That is for you, Fuqua, and for yours truly to get off my chest. But we'll start with the first thing, and that being Rob Thompson. Was it all his fault? Can't say it is. Of course, somebody's going to have to take the fall for this, and it's not going to be the GM, Dave Dombrowski. It's not going to be a hitting coach or a pitching coach. To me, that's low-hanging fruit. It's going to be the manager. And considering that Alex Cora just got fired, ironically, the guy who fired Thompson was the former GM of the Red Sox that won a title in 2018, sorry, Bio, and actually reached out to Alex Cora to see whether or not he'd be interested in the job. Of course, said, nope, I'm going to take a knee on this. I'm going to pause, be with my family, etc. And therefore, Don Mattingly, who was a bench coach, formerly bench coach of the Blue Jays just last year, is now your manager of the Philadelphia Phillies. And I mean, what can you say? Unfortunately, that's going to be the case when it comes to $315 to $320 million payroll, high-priced stars, underachieving. The rotation has not been up to snuff. And yeah, it's not going to fall on any pitcher, although they cut Taijuan Walker. But, Taijuan Walker, I like him, but that's not a shakeup in any way, shape, or form. They're not going to get rid of Dombrowski. They're not trading away Harper, Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber. He just signed a 5-year extension. So what are they going to do? The manager is on a chopping block, and he walks the plank, and into the water he goes. Now, what could you say? I mean, that's just how business is going to be, and that's not just baseball. Same with the NBA, NHL, NFL. If you're not going to play well or your team's not performing, they're not going to fire 5 players or 26 players. The manager is going to be ousted. With that said, I thought after the Mets getting swept in Colorado, I talked about this on Monday's podcast, how I thought he was going to be gone. And it was interesting because the news of Thompson, thanks to you, Bio, when that came down yesterday, it made me think, with the day off, that was their chance for the Mets to fire Mendoza Monday. So he could bring in whomever that next guy is, have a day, acclimate, whatever, and then get ready for the Nationals. But when Thompson got fired, and the first inclination I thought was, now there's no way Mendoza gets fired, unless they're pathetic against the Nationals. And that still could happen, despite 8-0, a rocking chair game, Soto with a home run, 7-run fourth, and away we go. Clay Holmes pitched well. But now, here's the deal with the Mets and why Carlos Mendoza may not be too far behind to get the axe. The homestand concludes on Thursday. They go on a West Coast trip to Anaheim, Colorado, San Diego. So you're thinking, all right, well, that's not bad, Jay Reels. I mean, Anaheim, they're starting to slip. The Rockies are the Rockies. Well, you can't say that because the Mets just got swept by the Rockies in their own building. And in San Diego, who's obviously played very well to start off their year. I could smell a 3-6 trip right out the bat. And I wouldn't be surprised considering that they conclude that trip in San Diego. And the Mets historically have not played well at Petco Park. That if, let's just say for argument's sake, they go into that series and let's say they're 2-4. So they lose to the Angels. Or I'll be kind. How about they go 3-3? They'll either win the Angel series or the Rocky series. But go to San Diego and get swept with a day off the following day. Does Carlos Mendoza survive that? At that point, I would say he does not. So I had a bold prediction on Sunday when I said that if the Mets get swept in this doubleheader and they only score 1 run, he's getting fired tomorrow. That didn't happen. Well, now I'm coming back with another prediction. That if the Mets, now even if they sweep the Nationals, but they have a nightmare 3-6 or even 2-7 road trip, he might as well not even board the plane. Because at that point, they have no choice but to let him go. With a big butt. And I'm not talking about big butt and a smile. There's a big butt with that. If it so happens that they pull the plug on Mendoza, then you know what? You could take that old white time clock that you put on the stove where grandma was baking something and it has the dial with the red digits and has it by the minute. You could turn that sucker up all the way to the end and you're going to start to hear that tick, 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 tick. Because if Mendoza does get his pink slip, that timer is going to be set for David Stearns because he's going to be the next one out if things don't improve between now and the All-Star break. So keep that in mind. All right, number 2, Atlanta, 21-9. What could you say? They're playing great. Matt Olson has 26 RBIs. Michael Harris has 20 RBI. And even the reigning rookie of the year, Drake Baldwin, the catcher, 25 RBIs. Team is raking, playing well. Ozzie Albies over 300. Ronald Acuna is underachieved, but everybody else has picked him up. And their staff, Bryce Elder, lights out. Chris Sale, back to his Cy Young former 2 years ago. Braves are going to be tough. And I hate to say it, I can't stand the Braves, but the Braves are looking at a big year ahead under first-time manager and first-year manager Walt Weiss. So I had to throw them in the mix and give them credit because it's easy for me to look at other teams and talk about that. But, the Braves, I had a feeling they were going to have a bounce back year. I didn't think it'd be 21-9. But then again, I didn't think the Mets and the Phillies would be both 10-19 either. So they'd be a little bit better than that. But I have to give it up for the Braves. And this is the last thing I'm going to say this before I move on to your comments and talk about a couple other things before I sign off. Yeah, I see your comments there. Hold on. As I bring up the third point of this graphic. Right here, where it says AL awful. Oh, when I perused the standings, and I couldn't believe my eyes. And I talked about this a little bit, I believe, on Monday, if I'm not mistaken. But let's go through it, people. If you have not gone through the standings in all three divisions, the AL East, AL Central, and AL West, do you know, and you can count them on one hand, there are 15 teams. You can count on one hand. There are, count them, 1, 2, 3 teams that are over 500, and everybody else is 500 or less. How? Have every team in the American League been that bad? Look at these records. Yankees 20-10. Thanks for the Rays as they're nipping at the Yankees' heels. Winners of 6 in a row, beating up on the Guardians. They've done a great job. Now, how long that's going to last? Probably not. But they are very resourceful and a scrappy team. Give it up. Kevin Cash, their front office, they always do a phenomenal job. Rest of that division, Orioles 14-15, Blue Jays 13-16, Red Sox 12-18. Tigers, tops of the AL Central. Oh, wait a minute. You said, J. Reels, 3 teams have above 500 records. So the Tigers got to be that, right? Nope, they're at 500, 15-15. Guardians are half game back at 15-16. Everybody else is either 13-17 or 12-17, that being the Twins, White Sox, or Royals. And then in the AL West, the Athletics, who could hit, and they pitched, surprisingly, 15-14. Followed by Seattle, 15-16, Texas, 14-16, and then the Angels and Astros, 12-19 and 11-19. Which then brings me back to 2024. And I kind of hate to go backwards here, but this is why I got to pick on the Yankee fan because I know everybody's getting on the Mets, so I understand 2 wrongs to make a right. But you know what? I got to get my pound of flesh because I do not like to troll the Yankees. I've learned my lesson many years ago, but you know what? Enough is enough. And it's not necessarily I'm trolling them per se, but I'm going to troll this. Let the Yankee fans get geeked up. Let the Yankee fans, oh, look at our record, best record in the American League, blah, 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 so on and so forth, whatever. Great. They played nobody. Let's call it, we see it. And part of that is because the league is terrible. But you could also say to play devil's advocate, well, we're only going to beat the teams that are in front of us, and that's what the schedule is, so what? All right, I'll give you that. But you haven't played anybody of note. And you should have got swept by the Angels. Let me throw that in there. But now there's the other thing, where I go back to 2024, when the Yankees literally had a red carpet filled with confetti, diamonds, rose petals, to a World Series. And I even had my father-in-law, God love him, Angel Maldonado, who argued with me. Oh, but come on, Kansas City was a good team. Oh, Cleveland's a scrappy team. Scrappy doesn't beat a $300 million payroll team. And the Yankees always beat up on the Guardians, or even back then, the Indians in the postseason. 2007 notwithstanding. They beat them in the divisional series. So is this going to be a thing where I'm going to have to look at this American League? And granted, we're a month into the season. We haven't even turned the calendar just yet. But that American League is a dumpster fire. 3 teams over 500? I mean, listen, I understand National League East, other than the Braves, they have a 7-game lead. Everybody else is under 500. And then you only have the 2 teams in the West, Giants and Rockies, under 500. Everybody else over 500, including the AL Central. The NL Central, where the Pirates are in last place, but they're 2 games over. And if you put the Pirates in the AL Central, they'd be in first place by a game. So that's all you need to know about what baseball in this first month is looking like and shaping up, especially in the American League, which is just putrid. All right, let's see what we got comments. Uh-oh. Oh, is that right? Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, Aziz Al-Shaair is more famous for that late hit on Trevor Lawrence, if you remember, a couple years ago. Yeah, and he was on the Niners. Excellent. Way to go, Val, you know. I know Yankees won yesterday. Please don't remind me. And they beat Jacob deGrom in the process. And Judge, I know, 11 home runs. The guy's unstoppable. All right, but now I'm going to get to the next thing, and I'll be brief on this before I get to a new video that's going to pop up on the channel Friday, high noon, and Jay Reel's on the move. Hold on for that because I want to get to this first. The Kentucky Derby, Run for the Roses, the first leg of horse racing's Triple Crown. Now, two things. One, I'm not going to sit here and claim that I'm a horse racing aficionado. That I am not. As I mentioned at the top, horse racing gets its due 3 times a year, and it's between the first Saturday in May and the first Saturday in June. Obviously, the races, Kentucky Derby, Preakness, Belmont Stakes, which happens to be on the other side of the bridge from where I live. Now, of course, I'm not going to tell you, oh, this horse, that horse. I'm just going to see what the field is, obviously who are the favorites, maybe who could be lying in the weeds, and that's it. Have I ever watched these horses? And I'm sure Bio at the top, when he talked about Santa Anita, I'm sure he saw a lot of those horses back in the day who were in those races would be a part of the Derby. And Santa Anita's huge, a huge part of horse racing. If I'm not mistaken, isn't the Breeders in Santa Anita, which is usually in September? But here's what you got for the betting people out there. The one horse that you're going to look at who I've seen right now that looks like it's a lock, and not only just for the Derby, but maybe even for a Triple Crown, is this Renegade horse. Now, he has the best odds. He's 4-1, followed by Commandment, who's at 6-1. And then after that, Chief Wallaby, and then a significant drop-off. I know there's another horse, the Puma, which was at 10-1. So happy, but you got a lot of horses, 30-1, 20-1. And who was that horse a few years ago that was 30-1 that won the Derby and then skipped the Preakness? Matter of fact, let me type that up real quick. Which recent horse? I can't think. Yeah, I remember, and that was a big story. I think it was 30-1. No, not Proud Clarion. No, it wasn't. Oh, it was Rich Strike. Yes. And it was 4 years ago. 80-1 were his odds. And then his handler said, oh, we're going to skip the Preakness. And I said, why? Why is he going to skip the Preakness? Why? Because it was 80-1 and don't want to get embarrassed and up the track there for the Preakness? And the Preakness, as you know, is, I believe it's 1 3/8 miles. And you also got to remember, too, the Belmont Stakes, which is not going to be at the Belmont. And it's funny, I said over the bridge because it's under construction. I believe next year the Belmont will be back up and running because, for those who don't know, the Belmont racetrack is right next to the UBS Arena where the Islanders play, and they erected that building over the last 5 years, 2021, 22. So, yeah, it's been, 5 years that building's been up. So they're making it Belmont Park. They got shops, etc. And obviously they're giving the racetrack a facelift. So what they're doing is that they're having it up in Saratoga, which I believe wait a second. I believe that is 1.25 miles, and 1 3/8 miles is the Preakness. I know I may have my mileage mixed up. But with that being said, 4 years ago, Rich Strike, they bowed out of that. Like, wait a minute, why can't you? He could go for history here. All right, 80-1. He's going to be a big long shot, and there's going to be a lot of pressure, and he just raced 2 weeks prior to that. But how many other horses are going for Triple Crown? They race every 2 weeks, and Rich Strike didn't even show up to the Preakness. So obviously, whatever buzz that you're going to get for a potential Triple Crown went right out the window the week after, just days after he won the Kentucky Derby. And what happened? He shows up at the Belmont and got roasted. I believe he ended up sixth. And remember, the field was about 10 or 12, not even, maybe 10. So that was it for Rich Strike. So who knows? I don't know any of these horses. Obviously, Renegade, I gave you the favorites. Just keep in mind, they say the fastest or the best 2 minutes in the world of sports, the Derby. So from where I'll be, I'll watch it. Or I'll try to watch it. And if not, I could just replay it on my phone. But let's see what's going to happen here. Hopefully you have one of the favorites win, because that means then they'll go ahead and race in the Preakness and maybe have a shot to win that leg. Because really, it's all about trying to get that horse to win the first two legs so you can have some intrigue, you can have some drama, some juice for the Belmont. Because if you have a winner in the Derby and a winner in the Preakness, and maybe they're two favorites, they could go up against one another at the Belmont, but nothing like having a horse go for history. So that's my point there. And then my last point about the Derby and just horse racing overall, and I'm sure Bio could attest to this, and I'll get to the comments and I'll get to my news before I wrap up. Horse racing isn't going to go anywhere, unfortunately, for one reason and one reason only: gambling. And as Fuqua said earlier with OTB, all the betting sites in New York City, and listen, my cousin's dad, may he rest in peace, was big time at OTB many years ago. And for the sport that has gone through the ringer over the last, I'd say 15 years at least, with a lot of horses at Santa Anita having to be put down, watching what happened with Barbaro that one year, sadly, his leg snapping and hobbling around the course where poor thing had to be put out. I forgot what year that was. 06? Somewhere in that 06, 07 range for Barbaro. And how this is, it's not even a 20th century sport. It's a 19th century sport. Into the 20th century, of course. And it's just a shame that it's still around, because the horses, and I don't want to hear about the Bob Bafferts of the world and the trainers. And yeah, of course, they're going to take care of these horses, but they're getting shuttled around all over the country and even the world for that matter. And the treatment of them. And listen, I'm not by any means, the PETA, People for Ethical Treatment of Animals Police. But, you know, when you just hear these horror stories, and yeah, it's just sad. It's sad. And of course, nothing's going to be done about it, because it's all tied into gambling. Because if it wasn't, the sport would have been long gone. I mean, think about Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. Remember, you had all the animals, you had the elephants, you had the lions, the cougars, every animal known to man. And recently, because of the treatment, them being shipped around all over the country and the world for that matter, and they're like, we've seen what goes on. Stop it. It's over. And now the circus is just clowns, it's juggling acts, it's high wire acts, it's trapeze, which is fine. And it's great. And I'm glad that that's the case. But with horse racing, it's not going to go anywhere because of that. And it's just sad, because this sport goes back over 150 years. More than the NFL, more than the NBA, even baseball. It rivals that. College football. But you got to, come on. And yeah, I only talk about it because this is the only time I'm going to give it its due. But I just wish that something could be done, because, yeah, with what's going on there in that world and how many horses have to be put down, whatever, it's deplorable. And that's my 2 cents on that. So, all right, let's see what we got. Oh, look who's in the house. Greetings, Mark. What's happening? Hope you're doing well. Derby is fun. Yeah, I know. The pomp and circumstance, the hats, the outfits, the mint juleps, Churchill Downs. I get it. And it is. And it's, as a sports fan, it's something to look forward to, because you always wonder, who's going to win? And not that everybody's well-versed, unless you're just deep in the roots of horse racing, which I'm not. But, you know, I'll see, and I'll see for myself, depending on who wins, and be, oh, wow, that is a very strong horse, whatever. But is he a dirty player? Yeah, borderline. I mean, that hit. Val, just type his name and Trevor Lawrence. And that hit was what? 3 years ago? Maybe. And he got suspended 3 games for it. So Oh, I like this. Chief Wallaby, 8-1. There you go. All right, Bio. And yeah, he's the third, I believe, right? Because Commandment. I did say Chief Wallaby. Yeah, 10-1. And 10-1, 8-1, and 10-1 was the Puma. Excuse me. After that, you get 15, 20, 30, 50-1. That's when it drops off considerably. Oh, Further Ado is another one I missed. He's going to be posted at 18. Further Ado, 6-1. So the horses to look out for: Chief Wallaby, Commandment, Renegade, and Further Ado. As far as any dark horse, I'd have to read this to see, and I probably should have read this prior to. But anyway, yeah, that's what you got there with horse racing. I'll be on top of that as we get to the weekend. Steve Coffin. Oh, yeah, he was the jockey back in the day. I remember. And he was young, too, if I'm not mistaken. Did he start like 16? How old? Oh, I should say how young. How young? All right, I know he's going to say Google boy. There he goes. I say 16. In the Derby. But no, I know the name Steve Coffin. I think he was young too, if I'm not mistaken. I say 16. Maybe that's a stretch. Oh, he's 18. 78 affirmed. And look at it, his birthday's actually Friday. So he's going to be 66. Yep. 18 years old. I said 16. Yeah, and way too young. Viking GM search on the way. Oh, I don't even know. Do they fire the GM? I was not aware. All right, here we go, people. A couple of quickies before I sign off. And I appreciate everybody who's joined today. Always a good time. I'm going to start off with this. Friday, that's a typo. It's not 10 a.m. Let me redo that. Because originally I was going to schedule for 12, or for 10 a.m., but I'm going to do it for 12 p.m. And let me save here. And Bio, I know you and I, we've gone back and forth on this. And it's not because of the question, but back and forth in the sense of when I did the other video. If you haven't watched, I posted a video last Friday of Is Sports Fixed? And yeah, it didn't gain a lot of traction. I made a big time error where I had to delete the original post and I had to upload the newer version of the video because there was some graphics that were missing. Yeah, it was just a terrible job on my part, and I didn't catch that for whatever the reason. And that's why I believe you left a comment, Bio, which is not, it's no longer there because I had to delete that post. So I know that the algorithm, if you're going to try to mess with the algorithm in that regard by deleting and posting the similar content, it's going to say, oh, well, good luck in getting any traction. Well, I hope this one gets traction because Friday high noon, I went out to Yankee Stadium. This was last month, or really 4 weeks ago. And I asked several questions to mostly Yankee fans, of course, but asking, are the Dodgers ruining baseball? And you know my stance on this. They are not. It's the system, etc. But you got some very interesting responses. I know Bio's going to be fuming by watching this. You're going to see smoke coming out of his ears because of how he feels about the Yankee fan. But hey, you and I are in that same court, my man, because, and I've actually thought about you, Bio. I said to myself, and I wish I could be able to get tickets. And if somehow, some way, if you were able to come east, just to be able to go to a Yankee-Dodger game at Yankee Stadium. And then you'll really look at me like, Jay Reels, now I really know why you hate the Yankees. But, yeah, so that's going to be posted Friday, 12 noon on the channel. Please subscribe, the whole 9. I'd appreciate it. And I'm going to do another one the following week, the following 2 weeks. So stay tuned for that. And I got a lot more coming down the pike, especially once you get into next month. The weather getting warmer. I'll be outside. I'll do a lot more stuff, not only just at ballparks or arenas, but man on the street type stuff. So stay tuned for that. And I'll get to the comments in a minute. And then now the last thing, and it's going to shock some people. Nah, maybe not. I'm making it out to be bigger than what it is. But now I'm on the move. No, I'm not moving anywhere. I'm still staying in the Bronx. But tomorrow and Monday, no podcast pregame. I'm going to be traveling. I'm going to a destination wedding, and I'm actually going to be out of the country. I hope where I'm at, I'm going to have decent cell service because I will post a lot of shorts in lieu of me not posting a podcast or having a podcast pregame. I'll be on top of everything. I'll try to watch what I can. And I'm actually not only going to be on the country, but of course, there's going to be a time difference. So bear with me. Excuse me. Can't clear my throat here. One more time. One more time again. My apologies. So knowing that you won't get any stuff from me when it comes to a podcast for Thursday and Monday, I will be back by Wednesday. So a week from today, I'll have my live stream. We'll catch up on everything and all that that's happened between now and then. But I will post shorts. I will post about what's happening in the NBA, obviously Stanley Cup playoffs, baseball, anything that's happening in football, anything in any of the sports, the Derby, all of it. So, and I know I hadn't done a lot of shorts recently. In the last couple of days, I picked it up a bit, but I hadn't really done a lot because I'm actually trying to tailor my platform, not necessarily by weaning completely off the shorts, but I want to bring more of the commentary aspect to the channel so that the algorithm knows that, as opposed to doing the shorts. Because if I post 3-4 shorts a day, I understand it's important because whatever that's happening in sports, I got to be able to be right there to share my opinions or thoughts or throw a question at you or whatever. So I'm going to do a lot of that here as if I'm not going to be AWOL. But because I want this channel to be well-rounded, more commentary stuff, more on the street, more longer form. I understand the podcast and even the live stream is long-form content. But, yeah, I'm trying to be multi-versatile here. Wait, was that a little bit redundant? No, I'm trying to be versatile, be more involved in so many different types of content that is just not strictly the podcast, live stream, and shorts. And yes, I've done the vlogs and I've done those type of things, but no, now it's going to be more consistent. And especially with the warmer weather coming, where I can get out there, I could speak to fans, I could ask those questions. And it's not even just baseball stuff, it's everything. So whatever it so happens to be, I'm going to discuss it. And therefore, I want the channel and the algorithms to kind of hit on that just as much as I want them to hit on the shorts, because it's easy to confuse the algorithm, even though I may be talking about sports. But it's like, wait a minute. If you're pumping out the 1.5 minute variety, we'll see where we go from there. But now you have the hour or hour and a half or the 2-hour live stream or the hour and a half podcast, or now you have a 5-minute video, or now you have a 10-minute video or a 20-minute video. So I get it. I got to be a little bit more consistent. So that's why I've taken a little bit of the foot off the gas when it comes to the shorts content. But starting tomorrow and into Tuesday, I will put up more shorts, and I'll even try to do a live or two where I'm at. But I can't promise you anything because, again, where I'm staying, I don't know how strong my cell phone service is going to be, unless I can connect to Wi-Fi, which I should be able to, but I want to be more outdoors. I don't want to be inside in a hotel room doing a live stream. So keep that in mind as we move it along. When it comes to the podcast, and the live stream is not so much because next week, but I am planning to do lives. They're going to be impromptu. I'm not going to leave a date and time unless I feel like, oh, I know at this time I'm going to talk about this. So you just got to stay locked into the channel. You got to stay subscribed. Hit that notification bell to know that when I pop up, you'll be like, oh, all right, J Reels is on. Let me see what he's got to say. Again, I appreciate that. So that's what I got cooking here over these next few days. And I know, to think last week, because I was down at Bleacher Report, House of Highlights, I didn't have a podcast last Thursday, and it's not as if this is the middle of February or even, let's say, the latter part of July, early August, where baseball is pretty much the only sport, whereas in February, football's over with. All right, you got NBA, you got NHL, and college basketball, but it's a time where I could kind of break free. Here, this was something that's been planned for months on end, and right in the middle of the sports firestorm that it is, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to put up a podcast tomorrow or Monday. But rest assured, I'll be around. You just got to stay tuned. And, of course, as always, I appreciate your support. All right, let's see what we got here. All right, another one of my neighbors in Kentucky, about 21 years. Oh, is that right? So another one of your neighbors 20 years ago was Steve Cawthon. Wow. So are there any other athletes? I'm curious. You had Todd Benziger, Steve Cawthon. That's good, Mark. Gary Stevens, yes. Yeah, the big-time jockeys. Yeah, Jorge Velasquez. Geez. Yeah, jockeys are going to draw a blank in my mind. I know there's a couple of big ones that I'm missing off the top of my head, but yeah, there's that time. This is where horse racing gets its moment in the sun. And more so the Derby because of the pomp and circumstance, the pageantry of it. So when you said Alzer's here, then I remembered when he did at Trevor Lawrence. That's why I think he's a dirty player. Yeah, yes. Yeah, NFL's physical. We know that. Yeah, no, that was uncalled for by Alsha here. So I'm with you, Val. I'm not sure if Vikings fired their GM, but I saw. All right, let's see what they do. Don't stop shorts. YouTube boost shorts. No shorts channel suffer the consequences. Oh, no shorts channel. All right, Fuqua. Noted. Duly noted. And I'm glad you like the shorts. So, yeah, I will do that. And no, they boost shorts, but it's also the other content. I'm sure the algorithm, when they see my stuff, it's like, wait a minute, he's putting up a 1.5-minute short, and now he's putting up a 2-hour live stream. And yeah, in fact, I've also been auditing my channel too, to make sure that it's not only optimum, but yeah, I just say, knock on wood, I don't even know if the number surpassed it by now. Let me see if I take a quick peek. Yeah, I just got to, I surpassed 1,200 subscribers. So, you know me, I'm going to keep chugging along, people. I ain't going to stop as long as I'm alive and breathing. And hopefully, you know, money starts to trickle in slowly but surely. As long as the income starts to flow, and I'm expecting that to happen here in the coming months. Hopefully, as we get into like the middle of summer, things start to really kick off, and then away we go. And you know, I know what merch and things of that nature. But, yeah, I am not going to stop, people. So, you know what? I appreciate that, Fuqua. Thanks for that. And you're going to get a lot of shorts here over the next few days as I'll be away. Oh, that was on YouTube. Okay, there, Val. Dana Stubblefield, oh, yeah, out. I didn't even know he was out of jail or prison. Channel my post. I post. Yes, you do, Val. And you do very good. Uh-oh, my dream scenario. Oh, that's a slam dunk. Mets. Celtics won 2 years ago. And I will say this. If by any chance that if the Celtics somehow, some way win an NBA Finals this year, I'd almost have to say as a lifelong Celtic fan, but even more so as a basketball fan, and again, if they pull this out to where they win, and I don't think they're going to win a final, but if they do, then I can't say anything for the rest of my basketball life. Because granted, 81, 84, 86, winning those championships, and then 22 years before 08. Sorry, Bio. You got at me at 2010. And then have to wait 16 years to 2024. That if they somehow win this year's entire playoff, and there's another banner there on Boylston Street, then what do I say? I probably won't see another title in Boston for about 20 some odd years, because that would be the most unlikely. And people could say, it's not unlikely because you have Brown and Tatum coming back and whatever. But please, everybody had the Pistons, everybody had the Knicks. I wouldn't even know. I'd be over the moon. But, and I like that question there, Fuqua. And the ironic thing is, it's funny you have those in the same sentence. In 86, Celtics won, Mets won. Now, I'm not going to expect that this year, but hey, listen. I'll take the Celtics right now. They have a better chance of winning a final or championship than the Mets do. But you know what? Yeah, if you ask me, which one do I want more? Oh, it's the Mets. Without question. I'll be the first thing he gets. Oh, I appreciate that, Mark. And I know you've said that, so I'm going to take your word for it. But no, I appreciate that. I really do. I mean that. Let me look at the camera and tell you that. I mean that. Bio, you say football is my only favorite team. Ever witnessed a championship. All my teams won titles. I've been alive. Wow. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because they haven't even been. Yeah, not with Aikman. That's a good one. Geez, when was the last time? Was UCLA even? When was? I can't even recall. But you may know something. When was the last time UCLA football was in a national championship game? Yeah, because I'm trying to go back. I even went back as Aikman, but it's probably further than that. Yeah, 1954. There you go. They were 9-0. They were voted national champions by UPI. The only major football national title in school history. Hey, maybe one day they could be the Indiana, although Indiana won their title. But considering it's been, 72 years. Yeah, I feel you, though. But, that is a long time. And when you start a members only, I'm in. All right. Yeah, I haven't started that just yet because I think I also have to reach those parameters. But, yeah, I'm going to do that as well. Yeah, and I want to do that. So just exclusive member stuff. Without question. All that is in the works, but I got to keep working to get there. And I will. I don't care. And that's why, to me, having the videos like I'm going to put out this week, and I understand it's only 5 minutes. If I had like a 15-minute video, that'd be a sweet spot. Because let's say if I had, and I'm just throwing a number out, if I had 50,000 people watch that, I'll get my watch hours because it's 15 minutes, do the math. And right now I'm a little bit shy of, what was it? Yeah, I got X amount of watch hours. I got a little less than half to go. So I got about 1,800 watch hours. So I got to get 2,200 to get that 4,000 threshold. And once I do, I'm in. Because obviously shorts aren't going to cut it. The live stuff, although people watch, but not a lot of people are going to sit there like you diehards, which I love you guys, are going to sit there from the first second all the way to the end. And I don't even know if that counts toward the watch hours. I should have researched that, but I don't know. But anyway, Mark, for you to say that, I truly, I'm grateful for that. So when the time comes, and hopefully sooner than later. Gary B, was that the coach? I should know that. Obviously, I'm not up on UCLA football. Red Sanders. Or Gary B, man. Hold on a second. Oh, he was a player on that team. Yes. I thought maybe he also coached. Yeah. I know. When you think of UCLA football players, what do you think? Deshaun Foster, who, of course, was the coach there and got released. Troy Aikman. Wasn't, of course, not the NBA player, formerly known as Lou Alcindor. Wasn't a running back Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? Didn't he go to UCLA, Bio? I believe he did he not? And he spelled it Karim. Played for the Dolphins. Not a bad running back either. He was very good. Let's see. Yep. UCLA. I remember. Yeah, and I know a lot of people think he went by Abdul Kareem Al-Jabbar. Yeah, it was a third round, 80th overall pick. Yeah. I remember. Oh, Vic, what is happening? Yeah, I know. I talked about that at the very top with the Celtics. Terrible fourth quarter. Shot themselves out of the game. Much love to you, man. I appreciate you, Vic. Thank you. And, yeah, let's hope they could close it out tomorrow in Philly. I appreciate that. I appreciate the like. I know yesterday, Celtics. But thank you, Vic. Much love. And what was this? Sharman Shaw became Kareem. Yes, that was his name. Excuse me. I'm burping up a storm here. I don't know why. It's not drinking carbonated water. Jeez. My apologies. Thank you, Val. As always. And what else, people? I think that's pretty much it. Anything else happen before I bid adieu? Yeah, so I have a busy rest of the day. Not that you guys care. Yeah, crochet. That's a big thing, man. I can't believe that. Oh, look at this. Ilya Sorokin, Jeremy Swayman, and Andrei Vasilevsky finalists for Vezina as top goalie. I know Sorokin was awful down the stretch. Ugh. I believe he led the league in shutouts unless somebody overtook him late. Senators Kachuk, trade talk getting frustrating. Yeah, I'm on the ESPN page. Yeah, I got to read this LeBron article. Yeah, questions for the King. LeBron goes deep on MJ Bronny and his legacy. That's the article. All right. Oh, that is an afternoon game. Yankees. Oh, could the Rangers, please? Yankees going to come home. They're going to win 8 of 9 on the road. Oh, jeez. Good. Let it be Yankees Dodgers again, and the Dodgers win in 5. But yeah, how about a sweep? Let's embarrass them, which would be great. All right, that'll do it, my good people. Another one just about in the books. Dodgers ball starts in an hour. There's nothing better than I totally agree, Bio. 1,000%. Yeah, wear those chains, Val. Beat the Phillies. I don't want to be in last place all lonesome. So Giants got to win today. So, all right, guys, that'll do it. As always, appreciate the love and support. Thank you guys and gals so much. I know the fishing angel, Val. And like I said, even though I'll be floating in and out, keep it locked on the channel. Keep you up to date with my thoughts on what's happening here over these next 5-6 days. And when I get back live stream, I'll get into the wedding where I went, so on and so forth. And it should be nice. Should be fun. I'm actually going somewhere where I've never been. So that's even part of the mystery. So it's not like I'm going somewhere where I've been before where, I kind of know my way around. No, this is stranger in a strange land, but I'm looking forward to it. But with that being said, as you already know, I don't have to say if you do or do not know. If this is your first time here, second time, if you do or do not know, this is what I love to do, people. Talking sports since birth, in the blood, in the DNA. It's what I do. And if you couldn't tell over the last 2 hours, then you're going to have to come back next Wednesday and then for podcasts and even check the content come Friday, high noon, Eastern time. Because as long as I'm alive and breathing, I'm going to continue to keep feeding you guys a la Ezekiel Elliott. Kind of hate to use that reference, Cowboys, but Ezekiel Elliott with my thoughts, opinions, critiques, praise, analysis, feelings on anything and everything that happens in the world of the diamond, ice, gridiron, hardwood, golf course, racetrack, tennis court, boxing ring, octagon, you name it. From my lips to your ears, from my heart to your soul, from where I am to wherever you are. The J-Reels live stream always comes live, correct, directed, in full effect. Yes, you too, guys. Have a great sports day, everyone. Yes, wear that Lucky Giant jersey. Thank you, Mark. Enjoy as well. From the South Bronx, South Beach, South Central, South Pacific, and all points beyond. Peace, love, and God bless. Enjoy the rest of your hump day and the rest of your week into the weekend. And go sports. Enjoy it. Until next time, on the flip, baby. Jay the Realist. I try, Mark. I appreciate you, man. And thanks for no Hal Morris comments today either. So unless you're going to say so now, but I'm going to get ready to sign off. So until next time, on the flip.